You become an employee and you get a certain amount of stock options. So it's a fixed price that you can buy the stock at. And if the price of the stock goes up, eventually you can make a lot of money. I found that the same thing happens with our ideas. Our ideas, we put them somewhere and we grow them, we nurture them, we work on them, just as we would work on a company or with a company over the years, and they blossom into something different, almost like a compound interest. Hi, my name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, or otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Today we're going to talk about vesting your ideas. Vesting, unlike this is actually more of a blazer. Vesting is not about the clothing, but a very popular idea that I believe began back in Silicon Valley and became really popular when I lived there about a decade and a half ago. And it has to do with letting your ideas grow over time. In that case, with Silicon Valley, you're talking about stock options. Today, we're going to talk about how you can create with vesting your ideas. If you're more interested in this type of content as far as business, side hustlers, if you're a solopreneur, if you're trying to remix your career, as I talk about my new book, Career Remix, be sure and subscribe. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You subscribe for free at youtube.com/BrownDamon. Be sure and like and share with the folks that are also on their career journey just like you are. All right, so vesting your ideas. Vesting means that you get a certain stock option. For instance, you join Google or Microsoft or Facebook or Amazon or even a smaller company like I had my company called Cuddler, which I sold several years ago. You become an employee and you get a certain amount of stock options. So it's a fixed price that you can buy the stock at. And if the price of the stock goes up, eventually you can make a lot of money. But you can't do it right away. That has to vest. Vest usually takes a certain amount of time. So if you stay at the company for a year, then maybe 20% of your stock options will vest. 2 years, 40%, and so on. For a lot of it, at least back in the day when I was doing my startups, it was about 5 years and all your stocks would vest, and you're welcome to sell them, trade them, or what have you. I found that the same thing happens with our ideas. Our ideas, we put them somewhere and we grow them, we nurture them, we work on them, just as we would work on a company or with a company over the years, and they blossom into something different, almost like a compound interest. I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that our ideas, when we start to nurture them, begin to vest. Number 1, we have to understand that there's an opportunity cost to the time spent. If you're vesting for a particular stock, that means that you need to work at this company and oftentimes only at that company for a certain amount of time. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at a company, particularly if you're young, can feel like a very long time. My first major book took me 5 years. I was in my 20s. It felt like forever. Now me spending 5 years on a book, now that I'm a lot older, doesn't sound as bad, right? And so 5 years could be a long time to vest on it. The same thing happens with our ideas. Those ideas that we're not willing to let go, don't fit us anymore. Idea of sunk cost is an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means that what's the cost of us sticking with this instead of doing that? That's the opportunity cost. Seth Godin over at akimbo.com. Again, I love his work. He has a massive catalog. Just go to akimbo.com. You will not be disappointed. When he was being interviewed recently, he said that he started to feel hesitancy with the projects he was working on for the first time because he's later in life. He's in his 60s. And to paraphrase him, he realizes he only has so many bullets left in his gun. So if you're in your 60s, your 70s, if you're dealing with a life-shortening illness, if you have particular challenges, even if you're like me, where you realize that life is really short, which I've always known since I was a little kid, then that opportunity cost matters. If you're in your 60s or 70s and you feel like you only got a few years left, then the next project that you take on, and it takes 10 years, are you gonna finish the project? Could you do 3 other projects that take 3 years in the course of doing this one project that takes 10 years? Will you complete the project? This isn't a yes or no, this isn't a judgment call. We can go at any time, so it's not even an age-related thing. It's more like you going through the thought process as far as what you're doing. Is it worth the time? I have a video that's pretty popular about Seth Godin and knowing when to quit. He has a great book called The Dip, which I recommend as well. But be sure and check out the video, and I think you'd appreciate that discussion even further. Number two, when it comes to vesting your ideas, you want to give time for things to germinate. Germinate? I think it's germinate, not germinate. I don't know what germinate means. Germinate. When I say germinate, I mean to grow, just like a garden. You plant something and it slowly grows. It's not overnight. We have a garden in our backyard, a little tiny one. We live in the desert, so we've had mixed results. But that takes time. As we've learned over the last year or two that we've kept the garden, we've had some failures too. But you have to water it every day. You have to keep at it. Again, back to the opportunity cost. As I say with a little garden though, begin with small experiments. Peter Sims has a great book called Little Bets. It talks about this, and he talks about Microsoft, Google, as well as major stand-up comedians, where they will take small risks and then elevate based on that, right? Google used to be famous for having its, I want to say 20% time, might be 10% time now, where 20% of the time of their full-time employees could be spent on experiments. That goes back to 3M and their famous time doing that as well, which I want to say was back in the 60s and 70s. But Google got it from them, made it very, very famous. So if you do these little experiments, you can see what crops up. You're not risking as much. Again, back to the opportunity cost. Doing a 3-day project, what they call a sprint, instead of doing a 3-year project. Do a minimal viable product. Slap something together. Does it feel good? Does it work? A lot of my ideas, a lot of my books, including my new book, Career Remix, Get the Gig You Want, based on the skills that you've got. It's out January 2022, January 11th. You can get it at mycareerremix.com. Thanks for y'all's support. That came from discussions that I had with the publisher, as well as with different conversations that I had with my coaching clients over at damonbrown.net. I didn't know there was a book there, but it ended up being a book there, and one I'm very proud of. But that started as something very small. I've done 4 TED Talks. Some of those turned into books later. Some of them were books that turned into TED Talks, right? My first TED Talk was inspired by my book, Our Virtual Shadow, that I worked on with TED. Go figure. These little experiments, these little pieces, end up growing into mighty oaks later. So don't be afraid to take little risks. And also when you're doing these little risks, it's also opportunities to do side hustles and also to build passive income. A lot of the things that I'm known for right now, like this YouTube channel, like my books, including the new one, Built From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, Nourish the World, and other books that I've done, they started as little things that I tried, and they became major passive income sources. So as I'm speaking to you, I'm making money from the YouTube channel. I'm making money currently from the Built From Now. I'm eventually gonna get money from Career Remix as y'all pre-order it and the orders come in. So all those little details come from side hustles, from little ideas that came into big ideas. In fact, I have a TED Talk, it was my second TED Talk that I did several years ago. It's called Big Ideas on Little Pieces of Paper. Be sure and check it out. Lastly, when it comes to vesting your ideas, keep in mind that everything multiplies, everything compounds, including apathy. So if there's something that you want to pursue and you've been sitting on it, that passion can go away. There's ideas that I have, I think my box, it's right here. I have a box full of ideas, index cards, again, back to the big ideas, a little piece of paper that I never pursued. Or I did pursue for a little while and I lost momentum and I moved on. There's a certain amount of passion and movement that will never come back. And that's okay. As I talked about in another TED Talk, why you should strive for good enough, there's a graveyard of things that I never pursued. I've made peace with that, at least as much as possible. But half of those things I ended up not finishing because I slowed down too much. I took on too much. I wasn't taking the little risks. I was trying to do the whole enchilada. Doesn't make any sense. And in that course, I ended up losing momentum for it. And when I lost the momentum, then the idea was lost. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this quite a bit in her book, Big Magic. Fabulous book. I highly recommend it. I actually quote it quite a few times in Built From Now Deluxe Edition, which is available now. But she talks about ideas, having a life and having a spirit. And if you don't mess around with them for too long, the spirit goes away. Same thing with apathy. If you believe that you're not worthy of the financial riches that you're supposed to get from your career, if you're not worthy of connecting and making an impact on audiences and making an impact in the greater world, that's going to multiply over time. It's like compound interest. A lot of stuff, a lot of this energy can go back to what we think about as money, but it doesn't matter what the resource is. In fact, money is just another resource. So that could be your time, your energy, your focus, your agility, how you adjust to things, as I talk about and build from now. But if you end up going in the wrong direction, if you're not taking steps towards the world you want to create, it's really easy for that to compound too. So think about vesting your ideas. You're planting seeds and you're building something greater. That's it. And the way that there's money with compound interest with money is compound interest with your time and your energy. And I would not be talking to you today if I didn't take these little tiny baby steps, quite literally, when I was taking care of our first baby many years ago. If you want more insight into habits and routines that can help you on your journey and in getting into this vesting, be sure and check out my playlist. It's at youtube.com/BrownDamon. It's called Successful Routines and Habits. And it's some of the best routines that you can find from people who are innovating in their respective industries. Be sure and check it out. And if you're enjoying the program, be sure to subscribe, like, share with fellow side hustlers, solopreneurs, people who are on the journey with you, because we can always do more together. Until next time, remember you can bring your worth, that you can always build from now.